These are 4 ADHD success rules that have allowed me to adapt to my ADHD brain and achieve success as a neuroscience professor with ADHD. Most of the productivity experts out there push advice that is just incompatible with an ADHD brain. This leads us to fizzle as we pursue our goals and then ultimately feel like a failure. If you have ADHD, I'm betting you can identify with this. I know I can. And if this is you, you're not alone. The surprising reality, though, is that your inconsistency isn't the problem. It's very possible that your problem is following neurotypical success rules. So let's talk about replacing those rigid goal strategies that you've been following for your entire life with strategies that will adapt to your individual ADHD brain. I'm Tiff, a neuroscience professor with a PhD and ADHD and a mom of 2. And I am on a mission to help women with ADHD go from barely surviving to truly thriving in harmony with your brain so that you can build a life you love. I do that here on this channel and then dive even deeper with the amazing women in my program, the ADHD Success Lab. So if you feel like your ADHD brain is holding you back and you just haven't found any strategies that work, this video is for you. Many women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond went decades without a proper ADHD diagnosis. That means you had no idea what was going on or why you were struggling. Maybe you were labeled as distracted or unmotivated or just not trying, hard enough. Or maybe you were successful, but the more complicated life got, the harder everything got and the more you struggled. I know this was my experience. So this approach acknowledges the executive function challenges that we all face daily, but instead of fighting against your brain, it helps you work with it and still succeed. These approaches are specifically designed to help manage that roller coaster of emotions and motivation that is just a part of living with an ADHD brain. Let's get into it. And rule number 4 is my favorite, so stick around. Rule number 1, get crystal clear on your destination. We need to know exactly what we are trying to achieve, not some vague sense that we're going to do better, but specifically what success is going to look like. I mean, think about it. You don't just get in a car and start driving hoping you arrive at your destination. You know exactly where you're going to go and you put that address into Google Maps. To plan your route, you have to know where you're starting and where you're going so that you can actually map a route to get there and successfully arrive. When you aren't clear on your destination, this will actually prevent you from starting because you don't even know which way you're supposed to be pointing. That means you don't even know the first step you're supposed to take. So the clearer you are on where you're going, the easier that initial resistance that happens for all of us is going to be to overcome. In other words, less analysis paralysis and less distraction. Win-win. And if you're not quite sure which way you want to point, I'm going to continue this metaphor here and say that if you need to pivot mid-route, you can always change your destination and go somewhere else. So don't overthink it. So again, I'm not talking vague here. What will success look like? Define it, imagine it, write it down. Write it down multiple times. And then most importantly, what is the first concrete step you need to take to get to your destination? Rule number 2 is to embrace an experimental mindset. This is a life-changing gift you can give yourself if you can practice it. Distilled down, what this means is that you are going to learn to respond with curiosity instead of self-criticism. Let me explain what that means. So most people think of change as linear. I want to get here, I'm starting here, so I'm going to do X and it's going to work and I'm going to get here. Or I'm going to do X and it's going to fail and it's just not going to work, right? So it's very binary, very success or failure. The reality is when you are doing something new or trying to get to a destination that you have never been to, you're inevitably going to encounter some obstacles. So it is not about success or failure. It is about starting on the journey, encountering an obstacle and figuring out how to get around it. Now, what so many women with ADHD will do is encounter that obstacle and decide that because they encountered an obstacle, it means that they are a failure. And we'll spend a lot of energy criticizing ourselves about how we couldn't get around this obstacle. We should have seen this obstacle coming. Why couldn't we do it? What having an experimental mindset allows you to do is when you encounter an obstacle and you're having trouble getting through it, instead of spending all that energy shaming ourselves, what you can do is ask yourself, what is this obstacle? Why can't I get around it right now? And what is a new strategy I could try to get around that obstacle instead? And this can be a big tweak or a small tweak, but you predict what you think will work and then you try it and you see if it works. And if it doesn't, why didn't that work? What's something else I could try? And you try again. So instead of this why can't I just do it attitude, you get curious and you ask, what about this didn't work for my brain? What about this might work better that I can try and keep going? What was the obstacle? Why didn't this work for me? And then what would make this obstacle something I could go over, under, around, through, whatever? And here is a very important overarching premise. We've got to ditch the shoulds. When you're coming up with ways around barriers, I want you to be open-minded and truly ask what will work for you, not what other people think should work for someone. Assume there are no rules and ask yourself what will work for me and my brain to get around this obstacle that me and my brain are experiencing. I guarantee you, you have a lot of beliefs around what is actually an acceptable solution and what's not. Pick your favorite solution and then just try it, knowing that it might work or it might not, but if it doesn't, you can always try something else. It is not success or failure. So there's 3 core premises here. The first is that almost all problems are solvable or overcomable. Number 2 is that you will almost never do something perfect on the first try. And that's because of premise 3, which is that life is for learning. Every attempt that you take, you are going to learn what works and what doesn't work. I truly believe that there is no such thing as failure. There is only the opportunity to learn. Now, that doesn't always mean you will get the outcome that you want, but it does mean that from everything you've been through, encountered, struggled with, there is something there that you can learn and take with you going forward. Okay, we are learning machines. This neuroplasticity, this adaptability is one of the most beautiful things about the human brain. This is where having a community can be super helpful. But if you can adapt this experimental mindset, you will literally become unstoppable. Rule number 3 is know your why. This is so important. When your motivation disappears, and it will fairly quickly, you need something deeper than motivation. You need something that will help you develop habits or discipline around that thing you want to change. And the easiest one for an interest-based nervous system like we have with ADHD is to know, why do you ultimately want to get to that destination? Why does it excite you? What's going to be different when you get there? Allow the emotion of how things could be to fill you up, and then remember that. Write it down. Put it somewhere where you can look at it every day. And it's important. This can't be anyone else's shoulds. Like, my doctor told me I need to exercise more. That is not going to be enough of a why to keep you going back for physical exercise. You have to decide why you want to do it. And that has to be important enough to keep your brain interested through some of the things that are going to be a little bit more boring or repetitive or maybe difficult. And when life inevitably throws you off course, it is your why that is going to help you get back on track. And we're going to talk about that more in step 4 in just a second. Now, here's a level up if you're struggling to find your why. And this premise is called the 5 whys. And essentially, instead of just asking yourself why once, you ask yourself why after each answer to really get to your true purpose. So if you say, I want to find a better job. Why? I want to make more money. Okay. Why? Well, I want to be able to take vacations with my family. Why? Because I don't get to spend enough time with them and I want to spend more time with them. Why? I don't feel like I've been connected with my family as much and I really want to connect with them more. Why? Because I've noticed that when I spend more time with my kids or my partner, the house is more calm and everyone is happier and it's better for all of our mental health. And so that is a long way from just wanting to make more money and a new job, right? But it helps you kind of dig down to the real why. And that is one that evokes emotion and one that evokes purpose. Those are the things that really truly matter to you instead of a surface level why. All right, rule number 4, my favorite one. And this is something you can use everywhere in your life, starting immediately. Rule number 4 is value continuation over consistency. So a lot of traditional productivity approaches, or you'll hear this from gurus a lot, is that you must be consistent to succeed. And it is so rigid and it requires your brain to show up the same way every day. And let's be honest, with ADHD, that is basically impossible. I don't think I have ever achieved consistency. I would not know what that looks like. If I had required consistency to get to where I am, I would be literally nowhere. Our brains often don't maintain a streak. Or we will quit the minute that streak is broken. If you've ever tried to be closing your Apple Watch rings for some huge amount of time and you break the streak and then you just stop doing physical activity, you know exactly what I mean. I used to think if I didn't do something every day or on whatever schedule I had set, it didn't count. This is so unhelpful, guys. So unhelpful. Your ADHD brain literally processes planning and organization differently and is by definition inconsistent. And that's completely okay, by the way. ADHD brains work in bursts. And there's nothing wrong with working in bursts versus working at a steady state. Like, think about it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just different. ADHD brains are prone to this black and white filter of how we think about things. So we're either succeeding or we're failing. And if you require consistency, you will either avoid starting because you know you won't be consistent, or you will quit the minute you aren't consistent. So let's be honest here, sporadic progress will beat consistency for an ADHD brain every time because it allows you to forgive yourself when you get off track and acknowledges that you can always just get started from that same spot going forward. Because if you keep moving towards a finish line, you keep taking steps forward, consistently or not, you will eventually cross the finish line. It's physics. But if you judge how you're getting there, you are going to stop yourself before you even start. In the ADHD Success Lab, we celebrate continuation over consistency every single time. This has helped me get out of burnout. This has helped me so much in parenting, and it has helped me implement so many positive changes in my life so much more quickly, because even though I may not do them perfectly, and I still don't, at least I'm doing them. And as you start doing them, you will inevitably do them better, and some of them I even now do consistently because I didn't make that the whole point. Progress is the point. Progress isn't a perfect line. It's squiggly. That's okay. Might have some switchbacks in there. That's okay. But along the way, you're also learning. And the more you learn about how your brain works, the better your future is going to be. Continuation over consistency. I truly believe that every person with ADHD deserves to build a life they love. And using these 4 tools makes your success, whatever that looks like for you, inevitable. And that is why I'm so excited about them. And if you want to learn more about the scheduling tools I've used to completely revamp my schedule in an ADHD-friendly and, of course, flexible way, watch this video next. You got this.